Alrighty, welcome back to Gaming Week. So, we've talked about some pretty interesting stuff already. Maybe gamers are a bit more than just a community. Maybe the reason that we make games is, to create something and participate in that act of creation. Well, today we're going to be talking about a particular game, RuneScape. Now, RuneScape was another one of those games that I grew up on. Pretty much, I was playing World of Warcraft, and every once in a while I'd be like, I like World of Warcraft, but maybe it's not worth the $15 a month. And so I would switch to a whole bunch of different free games. And to be honest, I didn't even ever really play RuneScape members. Like, I never became a member for a long period of time. I maybe did it for a couple months here and there, but like that was it. I mostly played just me, just free, and I'll play with my friends at the beginning, and then I'd play by myself and do some fun stuff. But what happened with RuneScape is the combat was very boring. Right? You right click, and then you just auto attack. And like as a member, there was other stuff you could do, but in free to play, you would auto attack, and then you get hurt enough, and then you'd eat, and then you turn on like a prayer over your head and say, "Hey, you can't attack me with this thing," and then you would auto attack. So you're like clicking like 3 to 4 times per monster that you're fighting. Like the combat was not engaging at all. But I loved the game and it was so much fun, and I still get nostalgic over it. I check in on old school RuneScape every now and then. You play for a few minutes, right? But that's the thing. Is the combat wasn't very fun. And so what they decided to do is they said, okay, well one criticism is our combat is, lackluster. You're just auto attacking people, and that's pretty much all there is to it, right? Nothing too fancy, nothing too amazing. Like I said, there's more depth to it if you're a member and if you're higher level and you really get into it. There's more than just that, but that's basically it. And then they came up with this idea. Well, what if we have this like hotkey system like other games have, right? Where you would press a button and then you do like a special attack. And so then, yeah, you still doing your auto attack, but then there's other stuff you have to do too. And you wouldn't like optimize your damage unless you were using these special abilities and weaving them in and doing cool stuff with them. And yeah, that is true. That's more engaging combat. Absolutely. Killed the game though. That so many people left RuneScape after the evolution of combat that all of a sudden they said, wait a second, we're losing a lot of people here. Maybe what we should do is we should create old school RuneScape. Create a version back before that evolution of combat. And you know what? It was more popular than the version after. That still today, old school RuneScape, this old, more pixelated version of RuneScape, not the best graphics, is really popular. And is way more popular than their current version, which has so much more graphical updates and more abilities and more interesting stuff. There's like tons of new stuff in RuneScape 3, but in old school RuneScape, that's what people wanted to play. And so that raises an interesting question. If you take a system that was boring and then you make it more in-depth and interesting, why did people leave? Well, the issue is people don't care if something's boring. People care if something's tedious. And that's a big distinction. When something is boring, then, I'm not too engaged, I'm not too interested, whatever. It's fine, right? It's not a big deal. But if something's tedious, then it's painful, and you're like, I have to do this? I don't want to do this. And that's the thing. There's a slight difference. When you're bored, you're not doing something. When something's tedious, you feel like you have to do something. And having to do something is so much harder than not doing something. And so, how people would play RuneScape, how I played RuneScape, is I would watch a video, and then I'd be like, oh, dude, look at that video over there. Okay, now let me look. What's happening? Okay, attack that guy. All right, cool. Oh, look at that video. It's so cool. I'm having fun. And then I would go back to RuneScape and do like a few clicks. Like, that's how people played RuneScape. It's not the most engaging thing. But it's more engaging than, what? A lot of other things. It's more engaging than sitting around. It's more engaging than, just watching a video without doing something else in addition. And so, RuneScape, yeah, it was a bit boring, for sure. And so, if the issue that the new RuneScape was tedious, right? That now you have to do all these things. Whereas before, you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to do anything at all. You could just play however you wanted to play, and it was easy, low level, not very difficult content, and you click and click and click. And that's pretty much all you did. Well, old school RuneScape has the risk of being boring, right? So why do people play it? We get that tedious is bad, that if you have to do something that you don't really want to do, you're probably not going to play it. But if you are just playing something and it's not all too engaging, it's not the most fun thing, why would you play it? Well, what RuneScape did really well was you had levels. You had stuff that you could accomplish, ways you could improve your character, and rewards when you do. That you could do stuff that you couldn't do before. And so there wasn't any like flashy, amazing things. But it was like when you leveled up, then you could do something you couldn't do before. You could make something new. You could go someplace new. And that was fun. That was interesting. And so you could kind of make your own content. You could invent your own scenarios and do your own stuff. And make your own goals for your own reasons. Even if no one else would agree with them. And so like one thing I loved to do was I really loved smithing. And so I would mine and I would smith. And it is the most pointless, useless skill. You can buy everything that you could ever smith for cheaper than it costs to make it. Like, absolutely. It's a useless skill, pretty much. But it was fun, though. It was fun to make something. And the reward for making so many things was to make more things. To say, oh, what? You made a whole bunch of steel things? Now you can do mithril things. What? Now you made a whole bunch of mithril things? Now you can make adamant things. And the colors changed. Oh my goodness. Different colors? And I'm kind of being a little bit silly here, but that's honestly how it feels. It's dumb. It's pointless. It's useless. I know that. But it's fun. Not because of the gameplay being oh so amazing, but because of the idea that I'm working towards a goal and I have full control over achieving that goal. That through hard work and perseverance, I can make it. Guaranteed. Every time. And the only reason that I would ever not make it was really just because I lost interest. It wasn't fun. I didn't want to. And if I didn't want to, then I don't feel too bad about not finishing it because, I wanted to then and I don't now. That's okay. And now, the question is, why would we talk about this? Because obviously this channel is not about a game, right? RuneScape is, a game I played and it was fun, it was good. But that's not the point of this channel. The point of this channel is about this world and people and how we act. And so, what's the connection? And the connection is very simple. The reason people don't succeed in life is because there's barriers. There's either stuff that you don't want to do, but you would have to do if you were to do that kind of content. That you would have to grind for so long in something you didn't really care about in order to get something you did care about. It's about tedious stuff. That if life was just boring, then we could just bore our way through it, right? We could just be like, oh, life's boring. Well, I'll just wait and, bide my time and eventually I'll get there. But no, life's not boring per se. It's tedious. That when you have to eat food, as fundamental as that is, sometimes you wake up late and you're like lying in bed and saying, oh, I'm still pretty tired, I don't want to get up. But your tummy's rumbling and you're like, I guess I have to get something to eat. Now that's kind of boring. That's whatever. But what's tedious for a lot of people is having to cook the food. It's one thing if you just grab it, snacks, right? Just eat it, done, I'm good. It's pretty boring. It's pretty nothing. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But when you have to go through the whole process of chopping things up and cooking them and putting them together and planning that out, well, if that's your goal and that's what excites you, then that's fun and exciting and engaging content. I love to cook. But a lot of people, it's tedious. It's a barrier in their way. It's like clicking 1, 2, 3 instead of just right-clicking auto attack. Yeah, sure. It's more complicated and more interesting and more engaging even. But if you don't like it and it's not your cup of tea, well, it's tedious. And that's the same thing for everything in life. Is for some things we want to get real deep down into the details. And there are games where we do want to be deep in the weeds and we want to say, oh man, I can do this thing and this thing and this thing, and you sim the best way to play the game and you press the buttons in the right order and you do the right things and you practice, and then eventually, boom, revelation, you are amazing at this game and you're doing great and you're actually beating things that you couldn't beat before. And that's fun and that's rewarding if you like the game. But with life, you don't always get to pick the game. You don't always get to pick the rules. And so that may be fun and really exciting for me when I play something like World of Warcraft. But one thing I don't like is shooters. I don't think that way. I can't focus and and point in the right direction, I always miss. It's not that fun for me. And so there's tons of people who dive into that content and love that content and feel great and rewarded and successful with that content. But you put me in there and that's a chore. It's not fun. I don't like it. Even if I got better, I wouldn't like it. It's just tedious. Even if I got good, it would still be tedious. And that's the thing. Is with games, you get to pick the game. And sometimes you do want to play something that's just boring but rewarding. And that's fine. People love to do things that are boring but rewarding. That's what idle games are about. All that, this idle game craze. It's pretty much the same thing as I was talking about with RuneScape. It's boring content. Pointless. But you feel good when you hit a certain number, right? You work towards it and oh ho ho, boom, now you're there. That's a good feeling. The gameplay's pretty boring. But when you get there, that feels good. And that's how it is with life. We want to play in life boring but rewarding games. Or exciting games. But we never want to play tedious games. And so in my last video, I talked about how we want to change the world. How to create the world in a better way. You know, that's what God told us to do, so let's do that. But here's the thing. How does that look? And that's the thing, is it's different for every person. For one person, getting rid of cooking would probably be a huge thing for them. Yeah, just, oh, I don't have to cook anymore? Oh, thank goodness. That was such a chore. But for people like me, oh, I love to cook. Get rid of something else, like, you know, having to fix your car. Pfft. I don't care about that. I don't care about my car. It's just get it from place A to place B. It doesn't even need to be a car. Driving's fun, sure, but like, you know, I wouldn't be that beat up if it just disappeared. But I'm sure there's some people, there are definitely people out there that would say the other way around. That cooking's tedious, but when they get in their car and they just move things around and make things happen, oh man, that's so good, so fun. It's just different. And so that's the thing. That's the challenge for game design in the real world. Is how do you abstract away the things that are tedious? Pressing buttons to do more damage. You could abstract that away. Combat doesn't have to be the most engaging part of your game. Just like with RuneScape. People liked it better without it being that engaging. And so, don't think that doing something is good or bad. That having to do a certain task is fun or boring. If it was boring, it'd be fine. But is it tedious? Is it annoying? Is it something people have to do and wish they didn't have to do? Like, take it for example, doctor appointments, right? Now those are tedious. But why are they tedious? When you go to the doctor, you sit in a room and then they come in and they say, hey, ask you a couple questions, maybe give you a shot, maybe give you another appointment, and then that's it. Why do people think that going to the doctor is tedious when it's so boring? It's just nothing. You just sit in a room, and then they come in, and then they leave, and that's it. Well, it's tedious because you got to drive to the doctor's office. You got to sit and wait and do nothing. And now that sitting and waiting sounds a lot like something that's boring, but that's not true. Because you could be doing something else. It's that opportunity cost. People wish it was boring, but no. Sitting in the doctor's office is all too often an active thing. You are actively waiting because you're waiting there. Not back at home where you could be watching TV or playing games or doing whatever. Watching YouTube videos, right? Now you're in this office. And you're not just waiting. You can't just pop in your headphones and watch this video, right? You have to keep one ear out because they're going to call your name. And when they call your name, if you don't answer, well, then this whole trip was for nothing, wasn't it? So it's this active waiting that's the tedious part. It's that you're listening for your name. You got to sign in. You got to wait, sure, and that's boring. That's fine. No one cares. But you got to listen. And that's annoying. And then you go into the office, and after that, it just kind of zooms by. It's like, whatever. I sit, and I know I'm in the right place, so I don't have to worry about listening or doing anything. I can just relax and be like, whatever. It's taken care of. Unless you're late for something. Unless you had anything else to do that day. And you see, the point is to talk about this and how it's tedious to do something is exactly how we should fix those things. Now, imagine we have apps that when you're ever going to a fast food place, you can be like, hey, I'm going to go to McDonald's, I'm going to order this, and done. And then you show up 10 minutes later, they have your food ready, you pick it up, say thank you, and that's it. That got rid of the tediousness of waiting in line and a lot of things. Having to shuffle past other people as they pass by you to go to the bathroom, to get in line, to wait for their food, and all that stuff. That constant just having to shuffle this way and that way and listen for your number once again. But all of that just went away because now you have an app and you say, oh, show up at this time, done. And if you could do that with doctors, that would be great. But, that's a bit more of a bigger ask. It's not as obvious. Because you're not coming there for a thing, you're coming there for a person. For a nurse to take a look at you, and then for a doctor or some other advanced practitioner to give you some kind of checkup, diagnosis, pep talk, whatever thing. That's the idea. And so, understanding that some things are tedious, and that's what annoys people. That's what grinds their gears. That's what makes them say, I just don't want to deal with that. It's not hard. It's not difficult. But it's just something that I could do without, right? That if I just didn't have to do that, then at least it would be boring. That I wouldn't have to focus on something that doesn't matter. And instead, I could think about the things that do. And just be bored and let my mind wander, think about stuff. And that's fine. That's good. Nothing wrong with being bored. And that's the thing. That's the lesson that RuneScape taught me. Is I'd much rather be bored than find something tedious. Because just relaxing, sitting back, just clicking a few buttons, watching a video, that's how you know your game isn't that fun, when people start watching a video while they play your game. But yeah, it wasn't that fun. But I felt rewarded doing it. It was something that was good and felt good, felt rewarding, and it wasn't tedious. It was just, boring. And And as you think about how to change the world, because I do believe that's what every one of us is called to do, to change the world in small little ways. Think about that. Think about what's tedious, what you find annoying. Because it's those little annoying things that add up and compound and end up as barriers for people to accomplish things in their life. Let's take another example. When someone goes to school, there's a lot of tedious work at school. There's a lot of time, sure, where you're just sitting around bored. Yeah, well, that's fine. You're just sitting around in the classroom. Like, who cares? You're bored. Your mind's wandering. You'll get through it. What really makes people hate school is the tedious stuff. The little gotchas where you say, okay, well, that's the area of a triangle. Oh, wait, did you forget to divide by 2? Oh, that's the thing. Wrong. Right? Little tiny things. Having to remember all of the formulas because, you're not going to be able to search these things up in the real world. Like on Google. And so, all that kind of stuff. Having to remember dates and place names in history class. It's like, I don't care about that. All these little tiny annoyances. And what happens is, with school, and the reason why so many people don't like school, is because school takes all those annoyances, all those little tedious things, and make them the whole point. That just like in the doctor's office, if you don't hear your name, it's as if you just wasted your time. Because they'll skip you and go on to the next person. In the same way, at school, you missed that one little piece of information because you were bored, but you had to focus, and that's tedious, and no one likes to do tedious stuff. But you didn't listen, and you missed one thing. But that was the one thing that was on the test, and so, woof, that's it. Now you get a bad grade, and that feels bad. Because the goal, it wasn't about just grinding it out. It wasn't about just getting to the end. It was about all this little tedious BS stuff in between. It wasn't about learning a skill and getting better at it. It was about being judged on little artifacts of information that you could probably Google. And that's why people don't like school. Because if it was merely that they just couldn't do it, not everyone's cut out to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, right? So yeah, some people won't make it, for sure. They just can't cut it. But you mean to tell me that people can't graduate high school? Absolutely they can. Pretty much everyone can. The issue is, the reason people drop out of high school is because it is painful to them to go through all those tedious little things. And so, the point isn't, let's fix school, or let's fix the doctor's office, or anything like that. The point is a mindset of, these are problems, and why are they problems? Why do people not like this, and why do people like that? What about it is engaging for one person and not for another? Is it success rate? Is school fun for one person because, they're good at it? Is cooking fun for one person because they understand it and they can make good dishes? Is it merely that people are frustrated that they don't like it? Could be. Or maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze. That people could easily get good at playing RuneScape with pressing buttons. Absolutely. It's not that hard. It's not that technically complicated. But maybe they just say, yeah, I could do that, but that's not what I came here for. I could learn pointless bits of information, but they're pointless. I thought I was supposed to be learning something important. I could be sitting out in the doctor's office listening for my name, but that just sounds like an aggravatingly boring time. Especially if, they don't call my name for half an hour. Something like that. Nah, that's rough. And so, think about those different things as they play into different experiences. Why do some people do one thing and other people don't? Why do people like what they like and don't what they don't? And that's the thing about game design and playing games that you learn. You learn about yourself and about people in general. What parts of the game make you feel like it's not worth playing anymore? What parts of the game motivate you to get to that next level? Because if we can make engaging games, then that same skill will transfer over and help us make this world more engaging, more fun, more rewarding. And if the world is more rewarding and more exciting and more fun, well, maybe more people will be successful. Crazier things have happened. But in any case, it's something worth discussing.